Good evening. I'm Chris Thomas. Thanks for joining us. Happening right now, Sacramento city leaders are debating the mayor's right to housing ordinance. The idea is to tackle the homeless crisis, but it does not come without controversy. ABC 10's Lena Howland is live at City Hall with a closer look at that debate.
Well, Chris, what this really boils down to is if this does get approved here by City Council come 2023, each person experiencing homelessness that does get offered at least two forms of housing or shelter would have an obligation to accept one, or they could be moved from their current campground.
Law should be that people live indoors.
Mayor Darrell Steinberg is hopeful the right to housing and obligation to accept it could finally move the needle for the homeless crisis in Sacramento.
We have to continue to drive to build the capacity to be able to offer people who are unsheltered a place to live. And only when we have done that does the second half come into play.
The proposed ordinance would only come into play when the city has created enough capacity by January 2023, which is what they're working on now in their $100 million homeless plan. If approved, folks experiencing homelessness would be given two options of shelter to choose from, and they'd have the obligation to either accept it or be moved.
They could file a claim with the city saying, I want housing. The city would have 10 days to be able to match that person with housing.
But not everyone is on board. The Sacramento Homeless Union called it a con job that will feed the homeless industrial complex and not end homelessness. Joseph Smith, advocacy director for Loaves and Fishes, says this plan needs more housing and worries that this could cause more harm than good.
When you do that, you create trauma and harm to the people living on the streets. They've been moved over and over and over again.
For 64-year-old Robert Witt, who has been staying near Discovery Park next to I-5 for the past 2 years,
I prefer to live my life the way I want to live it. Most people do.
Says if he was given two options for housing, he wouldn't take either because of the possibility of having to follow certain rules.
If they want to take me out of here and force me to live where I don't want to live, I'm not going to accept that, but, I'll just go on somewhere else.
And tonight is only the first discussion on this matter. Next October, there is expected to be a full public meeting to see if the city has made progress towards meeting its housing goals. From there, council can consider a vote to keep this ordinance to go into effect on January 1st, 2023.
So this is indeed a process. Stay with us for updates.